Hi there, I want to welcome you to this video. As well as our normal Sunday sermons at Westlake, we're going to produce some supplemental videos. So we've already done that. You might have seen some videos called Deeper. And on occasions when there are some subjects that we can't really deal with on a Sunday in the depth that's required, then in these teaching videos we're going to go a bit deeper. Now, this video is the first of another series of videos that I'm going to call Westlake Toolkit. And what we're going to do here is that we're going to look at some practical things to help you in your Christian faith. And as you might have guessed from the desk here, what we're going to think about today is Bibles, because quite a few of you over the last couple of months have been asking me about Bibles and what Bible to buy and what Bible I recommend. So I thought we'd do a little video about it. First thing is that Bibles fall broadly into three categories. There are Bibles that are quite a literal word-for-word translation almost. And this would be an example. This is the New Revised Standard Version. And other translations would be the ESV or the New American Standard Bible or the New King James Bible. And so what they try to do is stick quite closely to translating word for word as far as they can from the original. In the middle is what scholars call dynamic equivalent Bibles. And so rather than slavishly translating word for word, because often that doesn't quite work, what they try to do is create translations almost for thought. So following the text, but trying to create a translation that better translates the ideas and reads more clearly. And an example of those kind of Bibles would be the New Living Translation, or this is the NIV. And then at the far side are what we're going to call paraphrases, which are a much freer rendering of the text. And a good example of that would be the Message, or the Amplified Bible. The Amplified Bible is interesting because I remember someone saying to me at Bible college that reading the Bible in English is like watching TV in black and white, but reading it in its original languages is like watching in colour, because words have shades of meaning that don't quite come across in one English word. Now, let's face it, most of us aren't going to learn New Testament Greek or Old Testament Hebrew, but the Amplified Bible tries to help you get those shades of meaning by often adding all the different possibilities or shades of meaning in a word. And so that's the Amplified Bible. Now, here's what I recommend. I think that if you want to have a good set of Bibles for yourself, I would recommend that you have one of each. Now, don't worry, you don't have to go out and buy them, because there are some excellent free websites where you can access these Bibles all for nothing. And here's one of them, the link down there, Bible Hub. That will give you access to them. I'm kind of old-fashioned, and so I do like to have a Bible opened in front of me. And so generally speaking, the three Bibles that I would have on my shelf, on my desk, would be a literal translation, a dynamic equivalent, and I'll sometimes consult a paraphrase, because they sometimes put it in a thought-provoking way. Now, the other thing that people often ask me about are study Bibles. Study Bibles give you the text Here's a text. But down below there are footnotes that try and explain the text. So it's a bit like a commentary built in to the Bible. I think study Bibles are great. Obviously, most of you aren't going to build up a library. I have, because I'm called to be a pastor and teacher. But a study Bible can be a great way of helping you understand the text. Now, when it comes to study Bibles, I would recommend a general study Bible. This is the NIV Study Bible, which has been updated over the years. It's excellent. I'm not a huge fan of study Bibles that come from a particular theological perspective. So you can get Wesleyan study Bibles or Calvinistic study Bibles, because they're coming with an agenda. So I don't really recommend them. And the other thing is, I'm not hugely keen on study Bibles that are written by a well-known pastor or preacher, kind of for the same reason. So I want to end by just showing you that the 3 Bibles that are always on my desk for my own devotions and for when I'm preparing sermons. First of all, I always have what we were thinking about later, a literal translation, and this is the New Oxford Annotated Bible. And the reason I like this is that at the bottom, the footnotes here are fairly technical about why particular verses are translated in particular ways, and the choices that the translators have made, and any kind of difficulties in the text. So I need that for when I'm working out what the text really means. Now, the other study Bible that I got about a year ago, and I have been incredibly impressed with it, is the NIV Cultural Background Study Bible. So instead of just trying to explain to you what the text is saying, this study Bible tries through the footnotes, and there's some articles in here as well, to give you the cultural background. Often reading the text of the Bible is like listening to one half of a telephone conversation. You're not hearing the other side of the conversation. So this cultural study Bible is trying to help you hear the other bit of the conversation, what's going on in the culture, and that can often really help you understand a particular passage. And so I found this indispensable recently. Commentaries often give you the same thing, but I've discovered that this gives me a quick insight that then I can do further research. Now, the other Bible that's always on my shelf, and this is one that I really recommend, is a journaling Bible. What a journaling Bible is hopefully you can see here. It's got the text, but it's printed on slightly thicker paper, which means that you can highlight things in the text, and it doesn't obscure the text on the other side of the page. And also it's got wide margins which are lined so that you can write notes. And so whenever I'm doing my devotions, or whenever I'm preparing a sermon, I will write down things that come to me, quotes or particular things that help me understand the text. If I hear a good sermon online and there's a particular point on a text, I'll pop it in there. And the great thing about this is that what you're effectively doing is creating your own study Bible. So highly recommended. These can be got for about 35 to 40 francs. Well worth the investment, really is highly recommended. So that's what we're talking about in Bibles. And if you've got any questions, I'd be absolutely delighted to answer them, and you can contact me at the address there. Whatever Bible we choose, let's make sure we read it. And I think it was General Booth who said that the best translation of the Bible was a translation into shoe leather. And what he meant by that, quite simply, was that the best translation of the Bible that most people will see, who will never read one of these, is simply when you and I, as God's people, put its message into action in our lives.